Okay, a short intro for today's SportsBeat KC, the Stars Daily Sports Podcast, because we go long today. It's Thursday, December 3rd, and I'm Blair Kerkhoff. Sam Mellinger, Vahe Gregorian, Herbie Teope, and Sam McDowell are here to talk the Chiefs. It started as a SportsBeat Live and now presented as a SportsBeat KC podcast. We cover the impact of the Steelers' outcome on Wednesday, who has the inside track for the AFC's top seed. We talk about the pass rush and Frank Clark's play. We also cover the psychology of the Chiefs' trick plays this year. Plus, we get into your questions and comments. So let's get going. Hey, hello. Welcome to SportsBeat Live, the Kansas City Stars weekly meet and greet, where we talk Chiefs with you and the people who cover the Chiefs for the Star. Let's see who is in the house this morning. Sam Mellinger's here. What's up, Sam?
What's going on?
Nicely coiffed Vahe Gregorian is here, and those aren't my words. That's producer Beth who noticed this.
Well, you can go a long way with a hairbrush and busting out a little vintage sweater. We got a little reunion Penn football call with Coach Burnt tonight, so I thought I'd get in the mood.
Well, very good. That'll be fun. That'll be fun. Yeah. Herbie Teope is here. Herbie, what's up?
In the house, baby, in the house. What's going on, guys?
Good to see you, Herbie. And Sam McDowell's going to join us in just a moment. We'll be happy to say hi to Sam when he gets here. Okay, guys. Tampa Bay in the rearview mirror. Denver on the way. This on Sunday Night Football. I guess when the schedule makers, had their pick of games, I wondered why Tampa Bay was a late afternoon CBS game and Broncos at Kansas City was a Sunday night feature game. I guess you can't put every Patrick Mahomes Chiefs game in prime time. I just thought maybe these two would have been switched around, but so be it. The Broncos at Arrowhead on Sunday Night Football. Let's start where we usually do. Herbie, not a long injury report, but there's a significant one there, especially when it comes to special teams.
Yeah, there's a significant one there with Dorian O'Daniel, the linebacker. He's their core special teams contributor. So with him suffering a sprained ankle against the Buccaneers in Week 12 and not practicing today, you can probably expect Darius Harris to see his first action of the season if O'Daniel can't go. The other big news there is Bashaud Breeland, their starting cornerback, who Coach Andy Reid said was sent home yesterday with a stomach virus. So, we've seen this illness or stomach issues hit the Chiefs in recent weeks, and they missed one day and they're back. So I'm not too worried about him. The other two injuries of note are Tano Passanio and Martinez Rankin. Both of them were limited. With Rankin, you want to keep an eye on. He was active for the first time this season since coming off the PUP list with a knee injury, and he showed up as limited with that knee injury on Wednesday's injury report.
Tell you, whenever you see an injury list these days and you see something listed as illness, you just freak out, don't you? I mean, it's if it's not a knee or an ankle or a shoulder or an elbow or whatever, it's like, oh my God, is this the beginning of something? But with Breeland, it looks like just a stomach issue, right?
Yeah, correct. And Andy Reid was pretty specific about that. As soon as he said illness on Wednesday's Zoom call, he immediately followed up with, it's a stomach virus, and we sent him home.
All right, and I'll mention one on the Broncos side. I might be the only person who really thinks this guy's a good player. Hey, Sam McDowell's joined us. Hey, Sam.
What's going on, guys?
Good to see you, buddy. Philip Lindsay, the running back, is listed as with a knee injury. Did not practice on Wednesday. We'll find out later in the week if if he'll be able to go Sunday. I've always liked this guy. I just think he's a good hard runner. I love his backstory. Grew up in. He's from Denver. Went to Colorado and plays for the Broncos. And he's done some damage against the Chiefs in the past. And he injured his knee in last Sunday's game against the Saints. Because he was taking wildcat snaps, and it was in the third quarter. He wrenched his knee on one of those snaps. So we'll see if he's one of four players who did not practice for the Broncos on Wednesday. So Hey, look, the Broncos have their quarterbacks back. They got that going for them this week. Drew Lock's going to, will be back in the starting role, and we'll talk more about the Broncos here in a little while. But I wanted to. We've got the rarest of opportunities to talk about a game that was played on Wednesday that impacts the Chiefs. Right, the Steelers beat the Baltimore Ravens 19-14. And allows the Steelers to remain undefeated at 11-0. The week is now complete in the NFL. So the Chiefs one game behind Pittsburgh in the standings. So I think it's fair to say that whoever ends up first and second between those two teams, there is not dropping to third. They've got enough distance between. They're going to have enough distance. It's going to be one of those two teams as the top seed. And I'll just throw it out there to anybody who wants to answer. Do the Chiefs end up catching the Steelers? Maybe Herbie, we talked about the remaining schedule for both teams. What do you think? Can the Chiefs end up catching the Steelers?
I mean, before we went on air, you pointed out, and you're correct. Of the Steelers' remaining games, 3 of them are vying for postseason spot. Technically 4 if you include Washington and that garbage show that we call the NFC East. I mean, they have a tough road ahead of them. And when you look at the Chiefs schedule, you got the Broncos this week and then 2 teams of note, the Dolphins and the Saints in consecutive weeks, and they close out the year against the Falcons and the Chargers. So if the Chiefs continue their trajectory right now, the only 2 tough games they have, no disrespect to Denver, of course, but what projects on paper is the only 2 tough games they have remaining are the Dolphins and the Saints, whereas the Steelers have to run a gauntlet of sorts against teams vying for a postseason spot. So can the Chiefs catch the Steelers? I'm going to say yes.
Anybody watch that game yesterday? 2:40 start Central Time. Are we behind the concept of Wednesday afternoon football going forward?
Yeah, those games are always sloppy whenever they play on Wednesday afternoons. It's just it's hard to get any rhythm in those games. I watched it. It was football. It was fun. Fun-ish, I guess. The Steelers are a good team, but they shouldn't be 11-0. Like they should be like a 9-2-ish team or 8-3 or something like that. But I don't like. Here's the thing.
Go ahead.
Well, I don't think that the all season. With the new format, it's like, God, the difference between the 1 seed and the 2 seed, that's going to be huge. You get the first round bye. But now we're looking at it like there's not going to be fans in the stands probably. And you might not even get the first round bye if they do this, this 16 team format. So I'm not sure that it really matters nearly as much as we thought it would before the season.
The Steelers lost a big player yesterday in Bud Dupree, and they've already lost another linebacker earlier this year in Bush. So every time I watch the Steelers, I kind of echoing what Sam said. I'm shocked that team's 11-0, but I think it'd be great if they went 16-0 and went into the playoffs undefeated, and then you had a Chiefs-Steelers AFC championship with the Steelers undefeated. I think that would be fantastic. So I'm hoping it happens.
I think the biggest thing to me is really – because of the reasons Sam Mellinger laid out to begin with, and I like the reasons Sam McDowell laid out too. I don't want to say it's irrelevant, but I think the key is how the Chiefs are situated, how they're playing going in, right? And I think that's going to matter more. It sure looks like that arc is pointing the right way.
Just a couple things. It's a good year for teams in the Steelers division to be playing the NFC East, right? So I think that helps create the undefeated schedule for them, and maybe better records than you would normally expect from teams in the Steelers division. Although the Ravens certainly have had their issues, but look, I think there is a big difference between the 1 and the 2 seed, and the only way we get to a 16-team NFL playoff is if there's a Week 18, and the NFL is trying to do everything it can to avoid that, including starting games on Wednesday afternoon. So, so the difference between the 1 and the 2 seed this year is an extra game, which was not the case last year. As we remember, the Chiefs were a 2 seed and got the and got the first round bye. So, and then got to play at home after the Patriots, the number 1 seed, lost. So we'll see. I think the Chiefs are going to finish 14-2. And I think the Steelers are also going to finish 14-2. I think there are a couple of losses ahead for the Steelers. And I'll do a better job of understanding the tiebreakers in that scenario, since there was no head-to-head in the regular season between these teams. So the few things that I've seen are that the Chiefs would end up being the number 1 seed just because of strength of schedule issues and that sort of thing. So we'll see. We'll have to see. All right. What about let's go back to Tampa Bay really quick. And I'll tell you what I wanted to focus on here is we spent a lot of time talking about Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill in the first quarter that they had. I got to tell you, one of my lasting impressions of the game at Tampa Bay was the very last possession of the Chiefs. They got the ball back with the 27-24 lead and 4:10 on the clock. And we have seen in the past the Chiefs and a lot of other teams just go, run, burn the clock, get it down as tight as you can, and then leave it to your defense to stop the opponent and to win the game. Chiefs didn't do that, did not do that. And I got to tell you, I was as big a game as Tyreek Hill and Patrick Mahomes had. I may have been as impressed with that final possession as anything the Chiefs did on Sunday. Anybody with me on that?
Hell yeah. Yeah, I thought it was like the tendency to call that aggressive, right? To throw it on second down, to throw it on third down when you know that you can punt it. They're out of timeouts. You can punt it and give them the ball around the 10-yard line, let's say, with it would have been about 25 seconds left. So the tendency is to say, like, throwing second down, throwing it third down is aggressive. I think it was smart. I just think, like, you just look at the cold numbers and that was in your favor to be able to kill the clock there, especially with now I can't. Carlton Davis, is that his name? The poor fella. Especially with him just off man coverage on 3rd and 7. He was so terrified that he was playing like that. Just that comeback along the sideline. It's a lot of trust in your quarterback and receiver, but my goodness, if you're going to put trust in any quarterback and receiver combination in football, that's a pretty good one to do.
Blair, the only thing I'd add really is, like, you had to have all the stuff that happened before that, right? The prelude to it to set it up. But, some of that stuff is the razzle-dazzle or the dynamic stuff we'll remember. But really the meat and potatoes of the win was that last 4:10. And what's kind of interesting is, of course, we've been over this a fair amount of times in the last couple of years, but the range of Patrick Mahomes' repertoire that we got to see even in that little bit at the end. I mean, that really spoke to the substance of his game, as well as obviously the flash that he can show in any given moment.
I'll tell you what, a couple things that just diving into that possession, the Mahomes' legs, he picked up 2 first downs running on second down. So I think at that point, the Bucs have to still kind of respect Mahomes' ability to throw the ball, and the way the Chiefs lined up, it looked like maybe they were going to end up throwing it, and Mahomes just kept the ball and picked up the first 2 first downs with his legs, and both of those were on second down. So it didn't get to a 3rd and pressure situation early in that possession, and then when they got to the 3rd and 7, there is pressure, right? You got to pick it up here, because even at 3rd and 7, it's still before I believe we're still inside. No, we're past the 2-minute warning, but plenty of time. Chiefs would have had to have punted it away. Plenty of time for the Bucs at that point. But they run an interesting play. Mahomes rolls to his left. Tyreek Hill, the big threat all day, ends up catching an 8-yard pass and goes down. Smartly stays in bounds to keep the clock rolling, and they run out the clock, take the knee, go into victory formation. So I don't know. Is it the evolution of Andy Reid and the clock? I don't know. There's been times. Look, I remember the Ravens game a couple of years ago where they had a 3rd and 6 pass. I think it was to Darrell Williams to keep a drive, the last possession alive. So It's happened before, but I just and it worked. That's the other thing. It worked, and so we're heaping praise on that final possession. If it doesn't work, then at least they tried, right? And again, I just think that was that was a big, obviously a big moment in the game, and just a great sign for the Chiefs going forward if they find themselves in this situation. The question is, should they have found themselves in this situation? I mean, they're up 17-0, and they had 2 interceptions in the second half and went 3 and out after both of them. I don't know if one of those, of course, was the misfire from Mahomes to Hardman that would have been a touchdown. So at least they were taking shots on that. But I think on that after the second interception, the one by Tyrann Mathieu off the deflection, I thought they got a little conservative there and had a chance to put the game away and did not do it. And anyway, it came down to that final possession for the Chiefs. Let's talk a little bit about Tyreek Hill and his game. Look, Sam McDowell, you wrote about it afterwards, and I guess to me the sort of the follow up to that is he seems to still have a little bit of a chip on his shoulder when it comes to being discussed as the game's top wide receiver. It's just, you could tell in his post game meeting with reporters, it's a couple little things came out that he still thinks about, perceived slights in the past. But I don't know about you, but I think if the all pro team were picked today, Tyreek Hill would absolutely be a wide receiver, first team wide receiver.
The difference in these Zoom call interviews versus locker room interviews is pretty significant, but maybe the only guy that we get a lot better stuff out of this year is Tyreek Hill. His quotes and his comments this year have been significantly better than, at least obviously last year was my first year on the beat, and you guys would know the history beyond that. But Tyreek Hill's been really good for us this year, and his comments after that game were at times really hilarious. I mean, he's, like you mentioned, he's still upset that Jalen Ramsey called him a return specialist in 2018, and even at the time, Ramsey kind of mentioned he was just trying to needle him a little bit before the game. But yeah, I mean, we've talked about the evolution of Tyreek Hill quite a bit on this show, and he's come a long way from being the guy that you handed the ball off to in the backfield sometimes, you ran some reverses to, or you just threw it deep to him. I mean, he's developed the short and intermediate game in a way that you would like to see McCole Hardman to develop, frankly, that hasn't quite happened yet, which shows you the difficulty of it. I mean, Tyreek Hill he's more than just a guy that can run a fly pattern now.
What's interesting about Tyreek, to Sam's point, one of the first things that really impressed me about him, this was early when he was just the guy running the fly patterns, was his ability to track the deep ball. That a difference between him and, say, Chris Conley. Chris Conley, I always thought had trouble with that. And then it sort of started filling in from there. And then there were glimpses. This has been a couple of years now, right? Glimpses where you saw the incredible footwork on a sideline catch, just the good hands. He's obviously got great, just sort of nimble agility, anticipation of the ball now, and an understanding of the route tree. I think that for a while, all those things were questioned long after they had actually started taking place. And I think any of us that have seen him regularly these last few years, you're not surprised by any of that, but rarely do you see it all come together in one quarter like it did last week.
Yeah, that's a great point about his ability to track the deep ball, because I didn't mention that, but he's a short guy, but he catches so many balls in traffic now that, I mean, you mentioned Chris Conley. Chris Conley's a journalism fan, so he's probably watching the program and just got dissed on here for no reason.
He's smart. He's smart.
But yeah, I think that's a great point about his ability to track the deep ball, because obviously we know they try that pattern with him a lot, and he seems to come down with the ball in traffic quite a bit, especially for a guy his size.
There's no discernible weakness is the thing. Like, he's short, but he can high point a ball. Like, you can almost throw him a jump ball because of his vertical and his ability to anticipate. The footwork, I think, was the last thing to come. with him as a receiver. He was a little bit sloppy, like his first year or two, which is understandable. He was a running back in college for the most part. But he's gotten really precise with his footwork. And, there's no weakness. He's just a terrific player.
I hate the fade, but I would love to see him start throwing fades to Tyreek Hill just for entertainment value.
One thing that's just kind of funny, for some reason I just thought of this. I got some high school footage of him once when I was visiting with one of his high school coaches, and it just looked like, nobody else could compete with him. Like he was a college player against, Little League. And there have been moments in the NFL where it's like, they just can't compete with him. I mean, it's kind of amazing actually how he stands out.
I often wonder
coverage situations in particular, right? I mean, that's a big part of it.
What was he? He's a 5th round pick, right? And I often wonder if he'd ended up with a team coached by someone other than Andy Reid, what he would be, or what other teams would try to have done with him. Because obviously in college, they did at the 3 schools that he attended, the junior college, Oklahoma State, and Division II, Western Alabama, they didn't know what to do with him, right? He played as much running back as wide receiver, probably more than at wide receiver. And of course, he was always a return specialist. He personally beat Oklahoma the year that he played at Oklahoma State. So if not for Andy Reid and the offensive minds, Eric Bieniemy and others recognizing, that he could develop into a terrific route runner, and his hands have always been really good, right? And recognizing that he could be used as a weapon on the outside. Who knows if he had been drafted by someone else? And really, when you take a guy in the 5th round, he absolutely could have been drafted by several other teams. Others, most teams stayed away because of the off-field problems, but not the Chiefs. And full credit for Reid, Bieniemy, and the coaching staff to get what they're getting out of Tyreek Hill.
Blair, we've thought about this in different forms, but you're making me think of this now. It's really interesting to project. I think Sam Mellinger was just talking about this, or maybe even included it in something he wrote. Project what Patrick would be with average receivers, but the reverse is kind of interesting to think about too. How would Kelsey and Hill be with an average quarterback? I mean, I guess the point really is the combination is what's astounding.
Well, we did see that. However you want to define Alex Smith, right? Average to above average. I think the Chiefs got a lot out of Alex Smith, but both of them put up good numbers with Smith, and we know how Kelsey has always felt about Alex Smith. So, but the combination has obviously taken the Chiefs over the top. Hey, we were talking about the offensive line a little while ago. Herbie, maybe you can check in. Terrence Warnell Robinson wants to know if we expect any changes in the offensive line down the stretch. I know Andy Reid mentioned this yesterday that he likes the job that Mike Remmers has been doing. But what do you think? Is there any evolution here in the offensive line in the final few games?
I think if anything, if the Chiefs do anything, it wouldn't surprise me one bit if Stefan Wisniewski is called up before the end of the season. I don't know if they're 100% satisfied with their guard situation. And when you look at Wisniewski, he supplanted Andrew Wiley last year as a starter. So, when you have Wisniewski on the practice squad, and the guy that that he took over last year and is still starting, I mean, maybe it makes more sense to keep Wiley at right guard and maybe put Wisniewski at left guard, because you remember last year when he made it to the starting lineup, that rushing attack took off down the stretch and carried into the playoffs. So if they make any moves, it's probably going to be Wisniewski coming up to the active roster. As far as Mitchell Schwartz is concerned, I know a lot of people are asking about him as well. We asked Andy Reid yesterday what his status was, and we got the typical we'll see. But it's a back injury, so we don't know when he'll be coming back, and it's really going to depend on how he feels. He was placed on injured reserve on November the 21st, so he's only still in the second week. And with the COVID rules and injured reserve this year, he has to stay at least 3 weeks. So he's got another week there before a full evaluation comes into play.
And Bo Hayes asks when maybe we should expect to see DeAndre Baker. Any thought on that?
I don't know if you bring him up, who's he going to supplant as well? I mean, the Chiefs have one of the NFL's top pass defenses with what they're rolling with right now. I mean, yeah, I think he could probably provide you depth, but I don't think he's really going to help out immediately, especially with the pieces they have in place. Ward, Fenton, L'Jarius Sneed, and of course Breeland, and then you have Bo Peep Keys on the active roster. Maybe you can take Bo Peep Keys' place, but I don't think you put him in the starter right now.
I think you raised some eyebrows, Herbie, when you said one of the best pass defenses in the NFL, given what we've seen from a pass rushing standpoint here in the last few games.
They're top 10 against the pass, man.
That's right. No, that's exactly right. And the Bucs punted away their first 4 possessions on Sunday. That's not to, I think I made the point after the game that the Raiders punted a total of 4 times in the 2 games that they played against the Chiefs. So the Chiefs also had 2 interceptions, getting some pressure on Tom Brady on Sunday. Nevertheless, the pass rush still remains to the question, I think, on the minds of most people who follow the Chiefs, and it just hasn't been there the way that it has been in the past in terms of sack numbers. Now, Andy Reid and Steve Spagnuolo will continue to tell us that it's not about the sack numbers; it's about affecting the quarterback, affecting his footwork, and the Chiefs did that to some extent against Tom Brady. Ended up with some fantastic numbers, 345 passing, and moved the Bucs at ease after they did fall behind in the first quarter. But to what extent should the Chiefs be concerned about not getting home with Chris Jones and Frank Clark?
I think this is the biggest current concern that the Chiefs have. I think it's a bigger concern than anything else you can bring up, including the pass protection. They're just not. And by the way, Spagnuolo and Reid, they're absolutely right. Like it's just about pressure. Sacks are great. Nobody's gonna turn their nose at sacks, but it's just about pressure. And right now they're not getting any. And I know Sam McDowell, I think, is looking into maybe writing something later this week. Sam, I'm not sure, but I'll have something on the website today or tomorrow. It comes down to, if you watch, this is one of those spots where the film and the numbers line up, and the eye test, I would say. I think Chris Jones is doing a good job. Chris Jones is getting doubled a lot. Teams are throwing 2 blockers, chipping him, doing all these things, and he still wins sometimes. Frank Clark's, they got to get more out of Frank Clark. The Bucs, I don't know that they doubled Frank Clark more than once or twice. And Tristan Wirfs is a good player, but it didn't matter whether he was lined up over the left tackle, right tackle. They were just letting one blocker take care of Frank Clark. Mm-hmm. And for the most part, that was enough. They've got to get more out of him, because once he comes, now maybe you got to double him, and now that opens some things up for Okafor or some other guys like that. So I think, it's an oversimplification, but they need a lot more out of Frank Clark than they're getting right now.
Yeah, I mean, when you watch the film of Frank Clark, to me, he lacks the explosion that we saw at times last year. And Sam and I have talked about this offline, but to me, he's sort of waddling a little bit. He doesn't have that sort of explosive, straight to the quarterback moves that we saw from him last year, and that obviously the Chiefs saw a lot of on the film when he was with Seattle. But to me, it's not just Frank Clark; it's the other guys too. And I mentioned this after Sunday's game, but the other guys outside of those 2 combined for 28 sacks last year. They had one more on Sunday against the Bucs with the split sack between Okafor and Dana, but that group right now has 9 sacks in 11 games, and that's just it's not good enough. With the attention Chris Jones is getting in the middle, there's openings for other guys, and nobody else is winning one-on-one right now.
Hey, it's Blair. We have a special subscription offer for SportsBeat KC listeners, unlimited digital access to the Kansas City Star's award-winning sports coverage. Sign up now for 1 year of Sports Pass for access to all the sports news, features, and columns presented on the kansascity.com site, and it's only $30. That's a 40% savings off our regular rate. Your subscription will automatically renew after the initial term at $50 unless you tell us to cancel. Your subscription helps support the sports coverage of kansascity.com and the Kansas City Star, and that support has never been more important. please visit kansascity.com/SportsBeatKC offer to get this special offer. And as always, thanks for listening. You know, this part of the Chiefs game was really improving about this time last year, right? The final 5-6 games of the regular season and then into the playoffs. So I think that's where, where Chiefs followers are kind of shaking their heads and wondering if it's ever going to get there. My question is, the way that it played, pass rush played at the end of last year and through the playoffs, it seems to, I think you could make the case that the Chiefs got what they wanted to get out of Frank Clark. They won a Super Bowl, right? They gave him a big contract and they won a Super Bowl. So I'm not trying to suggest that he's a different player this year because of that. He's had medical problems. We know he's had the issues. He had him in Seattle and he had him here last season. And look, he's a veteran too. Maybe he's saving his body for the postseason, knowing that the Chiefs are going to be there. There's just no way they're not going to be in the obviously not going to be in the postseason. So I'm just trying to think of reasons why the situation is as it is this year. And Sam Mellinger, I absolutely agree with you that Chris Jones is absolutely getting pressure. If you look at the Pro Football Focus numbers, I think he's fourth in the NFL at his position in getting pressures. So he's doing his job. So I think
he's having as good a year as he's ever had. Right up there with his second, third, and fourth. I mean, they think Chris Jones has been Chris Jones this year.
Blair, go ahead, Sam.
Well, I mean, he's getting doubled like on half of his pass rushes. And he's still beating those doubles, basically at like an Aaron Donald-esque rate. So, that's not the issue. The one really quick thing about Frank Clark, he absolutely could be carrying an injury that he's not talking about and they're not talking about or whatever. That's absolutely on the table. The other thing, we talked about this before. This isn't hindsight. That the pass rush last year, and Frank Clark in particular, had this knack for coming up in big moments. And I don't know if that was luck or scheme or what. But it was a clutch pass rush, if there is such a thing. The thing that's concerning, and that could be happening again and setting up for this postseason. But the thing that's kind of concerning, wouldn't you think that Bucs game would be one that they'd be up for, and they needed it too, and they needed it and they didn't get it. That's what's concerning. Sorry, Vahe.
No, the only thing I was going to throw in was just sort of a pining for yesteryear. If memory serves right, it was about a year ago right now, where Sam McDowell, the Frank Clark whisperer, got him to open up in Mexico City about his neck injury. And I think that was in Mexico City, wasn't it, Sam? And
it was after the Titans game.
Yeah, the Titans game. Okay, but it just all this is making me think of how much we enjoy the benefit of talking to these guys in the locker room, obviously, right, in a way that we just can't right now with the Zoom calls. And Frank Clark, I think, was one of those guys opposite Tyreek Hill. He in a lot of ways is much better to talk to in the locker, by his locker, than he ever is on these rare Zoom calls we get him on.
One more point about the pass rush though is they haven't put themselves in the especially when you talk about those clutch situations, they haven't put themselves in great chances to get those sacks. And what I mean by that is, against the Raiders, for example, I think they held them to 11 third down plays, and only one of them was more than 6 yards. So the playbook is too open in those situations. When it's 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4, the playbook is too open for the Chiefs just to be able to tee off on the edges and in the middle. They need to put themselves in better situations on 1st and 2nd down to allow the pass rush to know absolutely this team's passing, we're coming for the quarterback on this play.
To the injury point on Frank Clark that Melly brought up, I think the last time Frank Clark landed on the weekly injury report was week 9 when he showed up with a knee injury and he didn't practice on that Wednesday. But ever since then, he hasn't been listed. So he's going. That indicates not only is he doing stretching and conditioning and individual position drills, he's going through a full practice. And if you're hurt, then you obviously the team is obligated to list you. I don't know how you can hide that, but he hasn't been listed on the injury report since week 9.
Well, he wasn't last year. I mean, when he mentioned the pinched nerve injury, he hadn't been appearing on the injury report up until that point.
Okay, we've mentioned a couple times the situation that we all find ourselves in post-game press conferences. They're all done this way, right? On Zoom, and we're doing visually like this, or virtually, I should say, which is visual. But one thing that I have found interesting and fun after Chiefs games has been the question to Patrick Mahomes. It's usually to Mahomes. I think one time it was to Kelsey. What was the name of the play? That's always been fun, right? And I forgot who asked it last week about the Philly special, the double reverse Travis Kelsey pass that was deflected and did not go to Mahomes for his first NFL receiving touchdown. But anyway, we found out it was the Black Pearl in honor of Pirates of the Caribbean and the Buck Stadium, the ship that's at the Buck Stadium. We've had a couple other fun names. Ferrari Wright, and what was the one in Vegas?
Slot machine, right?
Slot machine, right? And I forgot what the underhanded pass in Baltimore was.
Smoked sausage.
Smoked sausage. Thank you, because it went to Anthony Sherman. Anyway, first of all, if I were a fifth grade teacher in Kansas City, I'd have my kids coming up with all kinds of names and plays. And but I give the Chiefs a lot of credit for the originality of these names. And Sam McDowell, you wrote about this. Good story in today's on kansascity.com right now. Just what these plays do for the Chiefs in a season, and in a season that's just been bizarre in so many ways. It's not really a sense of normalcy, but it is a slice of fun that the Chiefs have. I think they have fun naming these plays. I think they have fun in practice, working them out, taking them to Coach Reed. It all seems of kids having fun. And tell us what you discovered in writing about it.
Yeah, I think it suggests quite a bit about, obviously, the relationship between Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, but also a lot about each of them as individuals, because we know that Patrick Mahomes came up with Ferrari Wright by kind of goofing around at practice after, one of the sessions while the special teams was going on, and he's just running in motion and asked tight ends coach Tom Melvin, hey, am I even allowed to do this? And he's got to convince Andy Reid to put it in. And we all know this. Andy Reid does not need help coming up with plays. We've heard about his stack of note cards. Like, he's got plenty of plays. But for him to still take a suggestion from his quarterback, and then beyond that, I think Patrick Mahomes probably thought, hey, I got my play in this week. I came up with that trick play and we got it in. And Andy Reid has created like a whole collection of plays out of this one trick play. We thought we had seen it once and that was it. And now we've seen two more iterations of it that have been, further trick plays. And I mentioned this in the story, but I just kind of laugh at the fact that there's probably a team out there, say the Broncos this week, that are watching film thinking, we have to prepare now for the quarterback to potentially be in motion before the snap. And oh, by the way, they know that whatever they're going to prepare for hasn't been shown on film yet, because they're not going to run one of the three plays they've already run. If they throw Patrick Mahomes in motion this week, it's going to be something else we haven't seen yet.
Can I go old man journalist real quick?
Please.
Kids like Sam McDowell are too young to know this, but there was a time when the Chiefs ran ridiculous plays, and a journalist who wanted to know the name of it had to go down to the locker room and get rejected by 2, 3, maybe 4 people who didn't trust him with the secret until he promised. He found a friendly offensive lineman, and he said, please, I need to know the name of this play where you guys threw it to Dontari Poe, a 340-pound nose tackle. And he said, they'll kill me. And I said, I won't use your name. And he said, Hungry Pig Wright. And that's how journalism used to be done around the Chiefs. Now, all these Zoom calls, they just say, yeah, Ferrari Wright, write it down.
I was thinking of that exactly. And I was thinking of poor Sam Mellinger having that taken out of his toolkit, because it used to be the guy breaking that story week in and week out. And now they're just giving it away like candy.
It's really sad. I got to find something else now.
I remember being in that Oakland Raiders, the cramped Oakland Raiders locker room, going from player to player, and then looking behind me. Sam's still talking to Don Terry Poe. What's going on?
I don't know how many times I've been more excited to write a column than when I heard Hungry Pig write. I was just over the moon. Absolutely over the moon.
Well, I remember walking back up or going in the, waiting the 20 minutes for the elevator at Oakland, and you were just kind of jumping, just giddy. Oh, man. So
the same look he had in his eye when the opportunity to talk to Dustin Colquitt about Marcus Peters punting. Hey, quick aside. I wanted to add to something that Sam McDowell got into a little bit real quick. It's, I think, the kicker quote in your column, Sam. One thing that's kind of been interesting, Andy Reid didn't quite explicitly say this yesterday, but he there's no doubt he started talking about the grind and how hard this is, and you don't want to make a mockery of, plays that aren't going to work, but absolutely he was saying we need to have some fun out there to break it up. I mean, I thought he said that in sort of a different way, and didn't quite go all the way with saying it, but I made a point there.
Yeah, he was asked about that, and that sort of elicited that answer. So for me, that one was kind of difficult for me to tell whether that was his own thought or because the question led him there.
Yeah. But
I think there's absolutely that's a window into Andy's way. I don't know if this is what you're saying, Vahe, but I think that Andy's got this incredible, he's got a lot of strengths, but one of his great strengths is getting a buy-in from his players and them giving the extra 2% or whatever. And they feel empowered and they feel invested. They feel part of it in a way that just doesn't exist when a coach is sort of dictating. Andy is sort of he's willing to be led by the players that he's leading. And I think that requires a lack of ego. It requires, sort of a genuine disinterest in the credit, which I think Andy's had from day one. He takes no credit. He wants all the blame. That's, a lot of coaches can say that and say they're about that, but Andy, lives that life. And I think the players notice that, because if that play, the only reason we know Black Pearl and the only reason we know that, Patrick had a hand in this because he volunteered that. If that play blows up and it's terrible, Andy Reid is the first one. That was my idea. That's my bad. I got to put the guys in a better situation. When it works, then it's, that's something that Patrick came to me with. That's something that the guys came to me with. And I think that part of it matters. And that's like kind of a telling window into how he operates.
And I've been crediting Eric Bieniemy and Mike Kafka particularly this year a lot.
Yes.
It seems on plays.
And I was going to say, I bet he cuts off all if a play fails, if Carlton Davis intercepts the ball, right? I bet Andy cuts off any conversation about it when he speaks first at a post-game press conference. So it never even comes up with the other players, with the players. So, okay, we've avoided talking about the Broncos for damn near 45 minutes. I don't think we can continue to do that. Vahe, you listened in on Broncos teleconference yesterday with Vic Fangio and Drew Lock. It seems like Lock was apologetic. We know he's fined. We also seemed apologetic for the events that occurred last week that caused that embarrassing moment for the Denver Broncos.
He was, but he was very interesting. Vic Fangio called into question the leadership of the quarterbacks, and Drew kind of can't help himself, had to kind of make a point that they were trying to show leadership by doing the extra thing, working out on Tuesday, and then caught himself and said, but we have to keep the masks on the whole time. It was just interesting hearing him talk about it. Absolutely, he's embarrassed. It was interesting to have him talk about his mom's Twitter defense of him. He had kind of a sheepish grin as he took it on, but he got into it for a minute or two. I tried to see if Laura and Andy might want to talk yesterday, but Andy Locke said he thought they might want to sit this out. But I did share with them something I put in the column that I felt a certain relatability from my mom running out on the field once when I got hurt in the game, and not liking it much at the time, but feeling better about it today.
Can you say more on that?
Expand on that thought, Vahe.
Well, the bottom line was it was a head-to-head collision, seeing stars, but I really hurt my shoulder, and I was just kind of flopped there. This is 9th grade back in Swarthmore, PA, 8th grade back in Swarthmore, PA, and I'm really in pain, and I look up and I see her face, and I'm like, oh my God, this is just taking a terrible turn. What is she doing out here? And next thing I know, I'm going to the hospital. She's taking me to the hospital with my little brother. Didn't seem to be much broader health care at that time. And it was some kind of rotator cuff injury. But I was mad at her for about 2 weeks. But I wasn't an NFL quarterback having my mom on the stage across the world. So I think Drew loves his mom and does appreciate the defense, but it probably was a little awkward for him.
Because the big thing for me is what's the aftermath like for Drew Lock, not just in his own locker room, but also on the field. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if Chris Jones mentioned it this week if he's able to sack him.
I'd be surprised if he doesn't.
You're your mom now.
And Chris Jones has been a little chirpy lately too, as we know.
Lately,
well,
Yeah.
right? At least where the TV cameras have caught him.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's. I won't ask for final score predictions for Chiefs Broncos, but it's back up on the Vegas lines. It was off for a couple of days because of the uncertainty of the quarterback situation. Now that we know that the Broncos quarterbacks are back, Chiefs are a 14-point favorite at home. Before I ask you to answer the question, do the Chiefs cover? I want to read this. This is the game that they played. It was week 7. I can't remember what the week was. I love how the NFL just, capital W week. This is week 13 or so. Anyway, that day, Chiefs win 43-16. Broncos had beaten first downs 24-17, total yards 411 to 286. Chiefs were 0 for 8 on third downs that game. Broncos had 33 and a half minutes of possession time, a big advantage there. Mahomes threw 1 touchdown pass in that game. It was to Tyreek Hill in the fourth quarter. So I concluded from that the Broncos actually had a pretty good game plan against the Chiefs in that game that was blown up by Byron Pringle's 102-yard touchdown kickoff return for a touchdown, and the Dan Sorensen pick 6. So with that in mind, that the Broncos had that type of success against the Chiefs in terms of a game plan, Broncos 14-point underdog on Sunday Night Football. Sam McDowell, who you got?
I think the Chiefs will cover. When you look at this recent series history, especially since Drew Lock took over, I think in the last 3 games, the Chiefs have outscored them 96-25. And I don't see a reason necessarily for that changing on Sunday.
Okay, Vahe, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm with Sam. It's just the way it's trending. I also think the Chiefs know all the things you just said. I think they're incentivized to demonstrate they can play better than that against the Broncos, which sounds funny when they beat them 43-16. But I think the Chiefs' offense will be in gear. So I like them to cover.
Hey, Herbie, how about you?
Yeah, unless Kendall Hinton is forced to start at quarterback again for the Broncos, they're going to cover this game. 14.5. Take the over.
Melly, what do you think?
I'll be the hater. I don't even know if I necessarily believe this, but I just feel like, what are the Chiefs doing here? Like, I just don't know. They just played the Bucs and Brady and all that. It's Sunday night, and I think that actually matters for this group. But other than that, I don't know. It feels like it'll be like a sloppy 7 or 10-point win.
I agree with that, and with the Broncos staying, focused, Drew Lock playing in Kansas City, it may be a late touchdown to make it a 34-23 type of game. I think the Broncos cover. So, but the Chiefs win. So
they've been favored. They've been favored by double digits in every home game this season, but 5 games overall, and they're 3-2 in games where they've been favored by double digits. Yeah, when the Dolphins come to town, that'll be probably the only home game this year that the Chiefs will not be favored by double digits.
That's stunning for the NFL.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Different times, man. Different times.
I think this is like the 6th time this year that the Chiefs have had the biggest line in the NFL.
Okay, guys, great chatting with you. Thanks, everybody, for weighing in with your questions and comments. And please join us. Stay up late on Sunday because these guys will for a little post-game SportsBeat Live. So for Sam, Vahe, and Herbie, and our producer, Beth Welsh, take care, and we'll talk to you again on Sunday. That'll do it for today. Thanks to our production staff of Derek Donovan, Beth Welsh, Randy Mason, Jeff Rosen, Chris Fickett, and Savannah Smith. A tip of the cap to Sam Mellinger, Vahe Gregorian, Herbie Teope, and Sam McDowell for Talking Chiefs. You can find their stories in the show notes and on kansascity.com. Hey, we got another deal for you, especially for those who want to deep dive into the Stars' terrific Chiefs coverage. For a limited time, you can subscribe to Sports Pass for 99 cents a month. That's right, 99 pennies a month. After 3 months, it auto-renews at $5.99 a month unless you cancel. How do you get it? You go to kansascity.com/SportsPass2020. That's kansascity.com/SportsPass2020. Do you want more than just sports coverage? I know I do. Check out the entire Kansas City Star product. Sports news, features, commentary, and analysis, the whole thing. You get all the stories written by my talented colleagues, plus additional news, sports, and business coverage with the e-edition. The details for all of these deals can be found at account.kansascity.com/subscribe. If you're having trouble hunting down any of these offers, send me an email at bkerkhoff@kcstar.com and I'll get you to the right place. So whether it's the Sports Pass or the full subscription, you're getting and supporting the best sports and news coverage in Kansas City and helping us produce programs like SportsBeat KC. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back on Friday with another episode.